All right, boys. Let's start the day off right by doing a build update. Boys, we hit level 95. That is crazy. I'm having so much fun with this game. We've been on the grind, and this character has been doing great. We've been slapping maps, blasting our way through, you know, tier 17 maps, which are, or tier 18, I guess, with where it's a corrupted T16 map with irradiated and corrupted on the map. So I think it's tier, yeah, like it's supposed to be tier 18. Just been destroying those maps, crushing the map bosses at the end. Got to level 95. It's awesome. So now kind of what we're doing, at least what I'm planning on doing, is starting to do some of these pinnacle bosses. So we have an Iron Citadel within reach. We have 2 Breach Stones. Got a couple log books. So I want to start fighting some of these big bosses, which means that we're probably, before you start this video, to let you guys know, we're probably going to be doing a fairly substantial respec, either to some sort of elemental damage with Ignite, so I can make use of the weapons that I have. I have 2 weapons that are pretty dang nice, that have extra increased elemental damage with attacks on this one, and my other weapon swap one too. So I may want to consider making use of that, but at the same time, the other option that I'm probably leaning towards is just going more bleed. Just continue to do physical damage and just doing bleed with it. That's kind of where I'm thinking for like scaling my endgame like boss killing damage. I think I've talked about that, right? We've either said we're gonna go elemental or go bleed. I'm leaning towards bleed, but elemental is like easier access with the tree that I currently have, but it would mean that I don't leech, which I don't love. And then I could go bleed, which gives me access to more jewel sockets, which would be awesome, and bleed, which would be awesome. But I have to move a lot more of my points down the tree. But before we do all that, that's gonna be the next thing that we do today. What I want to do first is show you guys the build setup. We're not going to pay too much attention to weapon swap 2, but I want to show you guys the build setup that I've used to basically just help me blast maps to level 95. I don't know if we died 93 to 94. We did not die at all 94 to 95, which is great. And part of that is just map selection, not running like too scary maps. But another part of that is having a build that has good offense and defense and good clear. So that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at what we did with our talents and stuff set up. So the green ones are my weapon swap 2, which is fine, but it's just kind of half baked, and there's some things that I don't like about it. So we're gonna adjust that. But for my Ascendancy, just to start things off, I dropped Bone Shatter so that I could do more shouts and more auras, and as a result, what I decided to do is go into Crushing Blows and just continue stampeding, just put Devastate on Stampede so that you could do the Armor Break on Heavy Stun, and then Armor Explosion on Armor Broke effect. And so what we did is just Crushing Blows on that. So any hits that I do are Crushing Blows, and Crushing Blows are just going to consume that primed for stun effect that you would usually see if you're playing Bone Shatter. So we're just running around stampeding still, but we're stunning people and blowing up their armor quickly with Stampede, which is cool. Of course, we're going for Hulking Form, Colossal Capacity. A million times a day we get asked, what is this extra inventory? That's coming from Colossal Capacity. You carry a chest which adds 20 inventory slots, which leads you into Hulking Form. 50% increased effect from small passive skills. So all these little ones, not the strength ones, not these sort of notables, and not the keystone passives like Blood Magic, but these little guys in between are all buffed up, which is really, really cool. Also gives you 4% strength along the way. And I really, really enjoyed the Aftershock still. Chance for slam skills. You use yourself to cause aftershocks. Aftershocks being another effect where the slam just does everything that it did before in the same AoE, unless you have things that buff aftershock, which we do. So that's my Ascendancy setup. I may change this for bossing too. Like I'm probably gonna move Crushing Blows into like health or something. We'll see. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But we go up top. This is later in the game. Early in the game, you want to probably just go through the melee damage, but later in the game, you can kind of travel more quickly to just get around and get to the later talents more quickly. But we're gonna go strength. We have stun build up, melee damage, strength with some armor into armor from my chest piece, into armor, regen, and more strength. Continuing over the top, we go into armor, into stun threshold from armor. Then we'll go into this big two-hander wheel, where we have a little bit less attack speed, but big stun build up, big damage. All these give you a bunch of damage. And then we are getting increased AoE if we've stunned an enemy recently. I do take this out for my other weapon swap that's more single target, but then again, I don't want to focus on that too much, but I think I will mention it a little bit. Just because we're kind of going that way. So for my second weapon swap for like a single target bossing, basically I have two weapons thingies. I have one for like map clear and then two for like more single target. So AoE single target. This one I just have it buffing my war cries more so that when I'm fighting bosses, it's just a bigger, more powered up one-shot attack. So you have two things of empowered damage, and then you have this one, which is another empowered damage. The war cry skills having more AoE doesn't really matter that much, but when you knock a boss on its butt and it kind of like tumbles away from you, you can still seismic cry and get the buff effect, which is nice, but mostly just wanted the extra damage. Then we'll come down here to grab strength, beef, and then more strength into armor and strength, and you defend with extra armor against critical hits. On my second weapon swap, I do have a little bit of strength here, just to kind of help pad that but the AoE one, we have area damage and area of effect, and then big aftershock AoE. Super, super nice. Gotta have that. So for this one, I was going block here for a second, but after I leveled up, or is block here, after I leveled up, I just went ahead and moved the block into this for just a little bit more block, and then life gain on block. I kind of like this. I might take this off though. I'm at 60% block or so, 60% block right now, and that's good, but I may not even need that much. But I leave that there for now. If I was going to use two-handers for my weapon swap, I would obviously not be speccing this for the other one. But I might do that at some point, but I also don't want to just get one-shotted by swapping into the two-handers against the boss. That'd be awkward. I do pick up 2 more strength nodes for my other weapon swap because I need more strength for that setup, which is fine. Now for this, I have a little bit of bleeding and empowered attacks deal more damage. This is big, so empowered attacks deal 30% increased damage is awesome. But if we are going to go bleed, aggravating the bleed is an extremely important thing. Aggravated bleeds make it deal like how much more damage? Like 4 times the damage or something like that? Where is the aggravated bleed thingy? Aggravate bleeding? Oh, here it is. So bleeding that has been aggravated treats the target as moving, dealing 100% extra damage, right? So that's pretty nuts. Once a bleeding debuff has been aggravated, it will remain aggravated until its duration expires. Aggravating one bleeding debuff does not mean another one gets aggravated as well. Okay, each instance of bleeding is aggravated separately. Still, makes it do double damage, which is crazy for bleeding. So you want to aggravate bleeds. If you don't aggravate the bleeds, I don't know if it's really that insane, but if we can buff the magnitude of the bleed and then different ways of aggravating it, that's going to be nuts. The bleed still looked good on bosses when I was using it. But yeah, this has lots of different ways to aggravate bleeding, so that's why we want to go down here, and even down here too, because that would be nuts. But as you can tell, it'd be a lot of talents to move from over here to over here. But anyway, not to get too sidetracked. So always we have the armor into heat proofing, makes a little bit of your armor apply to fire damage taken from hits. You have a lot of fire res, and then reducing that even more makes fire not that scary. I love this jewel socket. Right now I have it giving me maximum cold res, a little bit of life recoup and AoE. The spell damage is just not really what I want, obviously, but I need a blue jewel to give me cold res. And I'm also getting other things that are good. The main reason I have the blue jewel is for the plus max cold res. You can also get some AoE and damage taken recouped as life with that, which is kind of nice. So the spell damage is not important, but it is what it is. So for my weapon swap, my second weapon, I have stun, and then I have endurance charge when you heavy stun a rare or unique enemy, and then I just have a couple more little sources of damage and stun build up here. The reason why that is because when you stun a boss, and then you seismic cry with the talent setup I have, you'll have 3 attacks that will be aftershock. So you can throw your hammer, that will guaranteed aftershock, and then I'll do 2 sunders, and both of those sunders will have a guaranteed aftershock as well, and they will all be empowered. Which is, well, at least the first 2, the Hammer of the Gods and the other thing will be empowered. Or you can empower 3 attacks and just only have 2 guaranteed shockwaves or aftershocks. But either way, having one more use, or like one more use of an empowered attack is pretty dang cool on bosses. So usually I'd probably just go ahead and hit them with the seismic to get 3 thingies. Pretty good. But that's what I have down here, and then we'll go across here. We will grab strength and stun threshold talents into max life and stun threshold. Let's go down before we go up, because there's a lot going on up there. Over here, we're just pathing into the Warcry stuff. More damage with empowered attacks is awesome. Into Warcry's empower and additional attack. This is hard to live without. Really like this. I had this on both specs. On my like bossing spec, I have all this reduced attack speed stuff, but giga damage, right? So attacking really slowly, but then chunking them for huge hits, and then you combine how much damage you deal with this part and stun buildup with this, where it's even more magnitude of ailments you inflict. So ailments like bleed, right? So you're inflicting like giga damage, giga bleed, right? And it's duration of damaging ailments, so that's what I'm doing with this whole wheel. So you attack really slow, but hit really freaking hard, which is awesome. Then we'll go down here. This is something that's going to give us a ton of strength. The hulking form buffing this one is nuts. We don't care about mana because we don't use mana. And then we are doing a little bit more damage depending on the strength we have. We're using Giant's Blood, which allows us to, you know, wear or hold two-handed weapons in one hand, whether I want to dual wield them or hold a shield with a two-hander, we can do that. And we are definitely doing that frequently. We're grabbing some max resistances, which is really, really important for our defense. With max fire resist for each 40% uncapped fire res. So we have 120 fire res, which is giving us another 6% max fire res, which is a pretty big deal. Because my max resistances are looking pretty juicy. I do like that. Max resist is a very powerful defensive tool. If you feel like you're getting blasted a lot in maps, get your max res. So, not to get too sidetracked, but the defenses on this character, with any character, you kind of want like 3 types of defense. You want one type of defense that is going to reduce damage for you. Just reduce the damage you take. So we take reduced damage from physical through armor, and we take reduced damage from elemental through max resists. Then we also have block, which is just another defense, like the sort of bucket, I guess, if you don't think of it that way, where it's just a chance to just avoid damage altogether. You block attack doesn't do anything to you, right? So you have a chance to just not take any damage from the attack at all. And then we have a life pool. So for people that's like, it's like life or energy shield. For us, it's a life. So we have life to, when a hit comes in, it has bypassed our don't take any damage at all from it block layer. It has been reduced by our armor and elemental resistance to do less damage to us. And then we have to be able to endure the hit with our life pool, which is life. So we have life, armor, max res, and block. Some people like to go like evasion energy shield, right? Where you just don't take the hit, and if you do take the hit, then you take it from your energy shield, and you should be okay. Or whatever. But for us, it's armor, life, max res, block. So you'll see me giving lots of things for max res, like this down here. We're also stacking strength, which gives us lots of life too. That's another thing. All my blue jewels will have like cold res, increased AoE, and then life recoup. Ideally, this was like a kind of a low recoup roll, but it's okay. It has good AoE. I would probably like to improve that. I corrupted recouped life on there. But ideally, my blue jewels would have max cold res, 4% of life taken, or sorry, 4% of damage taken recouped as life, and then AoE. That would be good for now. But maybe there's better options, but that's kind of what I'm going for at the moment. So that's this side of the tree, and then we go up here. And speaking of recoup, we get a little bit more armor, and we recoup 15% of physical damage prevented as armor, which is pretty cool because we have a lot of armor. So we take a big hit or not take a little hit, and we have reduced a ton of that little hit with our armor. So then we actually recoup some of that life, and a recoup is an 8-second overtime heal. That's kind of nice just for steady regen. I'm not gonna do a 1 CCL right now. We're too big time for that right now. Maybe we'll actually put. Well, I don't want to put D&D on because I want to sell some big items. Anyway, I'm gonna change this. I went with this for a little while. I'm gonna change this. So this part right here is chill. This is fine. Damage with maces is great. Chance to aftershock from these 2 talents is great. This is a big damage node, and this is cool too. But I was looking at the footage, and I don't think I'm actually hitting bosses while they're stunned that long and that frequently. So I think I'm going to take these 3 points off, and I'm going to take these 2 points off. This is going to get taken off my normal spec. This is going to get taken off of my my boss spec. And this is going to just easily free up some more talents. Anytime you can see 20% more damage instead of increase, that's a big deal. It's whatever you're doing times 1.2, which is a big deal. But I just don't think I'm getting that much value out of it, and I can put this somewhere else, especially if we have to move a lot of talents. and we're gonna need all the talent points we can get. But anyway, this is what I was using up until now. I think for mapping it's fine, because like when you charge around, boom, like the first stampede knocks everybody on their butt. They're stunned, and then they aftershock, and then they get exploded, right? And so it's really good for mapping. But for bossing, I'm not so sure. Maybe I'll leave it in for mapping. But for bossing, I don't think so. I don't think I get much value out of it. But it's cool. There's that. Then we go up here for another blue jewel for the same thing. Max cold res, damage taken recoups, and increased AoE. If I was gonna... Okay, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'll talk about it in a second. So then we go over here. This is mostly just the mapping tree, where we're getting all kinds of AoE. I think this node could be moved, because this doesn't need to be part of weapon set 1. Or sorry, this doesn't need to be part of weapon set 2. I'll fix that maybe. Anyway, increased AoE into increased AoE if you stun an enemy recently, and then just damage and stun build up. And now, if you have any extra points, you could always put them in here, which are very nice. Those are nice damage nodes, but I need to fix this for my other build. But we're about to do a big respec anyway, so we'll take that time in a moment. So we go through here for max lightning res, and this gives me +1 to max res and +5 to all res, and it's also giving me 1 lightning res. But the reason for that is because of this jewel right here, Against the Darkness. So this one grants you 1% increased maximum life for all these little nodes along the way. Not these ones, but the little guys. There's a few of them. And then it also grants me +1 to maximum lightning res for all the notables, of which there are quite a few, these big guys, right? We've got a lot of those in the radius. So if you were to get Against the Darkness, you could get a whole bunch of different kinds, right? So an insane one would be like +1 increase maximum life for the small passives, and the notable passives give you like 4% increased strength. That would be insane, and then you'd have to figure out your resistances some other way. You could also get one that was a maximum cold resistance, and then what you would do is buy a bunch of emerald jewels and sock it in. Instead of max cold res, you would sock it in max lightning res. And the cool thing about green jewels is that you can get other fun stuff, like you can get attack speed, like 4% attack speed, 2% max lightning res, and like accuracy, or you can do like magnitude of like ailments, so you can do like bleed effects too. All kinds of crazy stuff. And I see some questions in the chat. Sorry, we're just like hammering the build update, and then we'll chat and Q&A. But Happy New Year's, thanks. And the headphones are Atlas Air from my sponsor Turtle Beach. Let's keep going though. So this jewel is why I'm using blue jewels here. If you decided to go for like cold res, then what you would do is get the green jewels. Don't get a fire res one, because you have plenty of fire res. I would say either lightning or cold, and then get your other jewels accordingly, depending on what you want to do. But this whole thing is giving me a bunch of fire res, and then cold res, and we're snaking down into rage on hit. Now, I'm using this only as my like weapon set 1 stuff. I'm taking this off for weapon set 2, because I don't really want to be like chilling in weapon set 2 that much. I mostly want to be like battling the boss in weapon set 1, but that is kind of awkward when like I'm taking all of this off. But I think it will be okay. I think what I'll do is I'll just run around and hit the boss with my normal attacks until I have Hammer the Gods up or a stun up, and then I'll swap into my other stuff and do big damage. But I do need to consider this strongly, because not only do I lose all the effects of this, I also lose a lot of HP and max res. So if I'm actually trying to like be in weapon set 2 the entire time I'm fighting the boss, I don't want to be giving up all of these battle things, right? But again, the reason why I had this stuff spec'd when I did is because I was using this not to fight a big pinnacle boss for a long time. I was just swapping into it to drop a big hammer on a end of the map boss and one-shot it. So it didn't matter if I had like sort of long battle set up, because I just wasn't in a battle for a long time against those guys. We were just one-shotting them. But again, my mind is definitely on what's next. But this is what I was doing up until then. You don't even really need a weapon swap 2 for most of this anyway. So you can just either look at my weapon swap 1, but weapon swap 2 is going to be important for doing these bosses. But anyway, I love the rage on hit. I loved the armor that you get when you have rage, and I loved the armor on hit and increased attack speed when you get hit. I always loved this wheel, so I'm glad it kind of worked its way into my setup. I'm using blood magic, which allows me to not have to use mana. I just use my life for skill costs. And then we're doing this little damage wheel It's not that great, but it does give me a bunch of life and max lightning res, which is cool. We could also get more max lightning res right here too. That would be kind of neat. And we could get more life here. Even this stuff is kind of cool. Armor and life is kind of cool too, but I didn't go for that right now. But anyway, I think that's about the whole tree, right? Things are gonna change soon. But this is what I did basically to get me to level 95, just to crush maps. Maybe have a weapon swap available to blast bosses a little bit harder. I didn't find it necessary. I could have just gone with my AoE spec and just one-shotted the bosses anyway. That would have been just fine. But in terms of my skill setup for this particular build, I had some things in Mace Strike. I didn't really use it. I pretty much just used these 2 Mace Strike things to just hold my gems that I don't want to put back in my stash. But I'd use Close Combat, Rage, Lifesteal, Armor Break, and then Culling Strike. Culling Strike's kind of nice, though. That's kind of chill. With this other one, I don't even really ever use this, but I can show you that I like Bloodlust, I like Fire Infusion, I like Execute, I like Momentum for either Leap Slam or Stampede, and I also like Exploit Weakness. I'm not using them, but I will like use these things when I add some more slots onto my other skills. I need some Perfect Julie boys, but I don't have them yet. So for Seismic Cry, I'm having that give me some Rage. I'm having that Daze the enemy, so you can spam this as long as enemies aren't stunned, so you can still get the Daze effect on them to make the stun build up on them more easily, and then I have it just costing less. For Infernal Cry, this is like, it goes on cooldown no matter what, and it's going to be doing some big damage for you, so I have this one. I use this a lot in mapping, I don't use this one a lot in mapping. This is pretty much only for big mobs that survive your hit and get stunned. So this one, we use Premeditation to make it just do more damage with the Empowered Attack. I'll even have it consume Rage to make it do more damage, so my Rage right now doesn't really last that long because I took out the talent that stops it from degenning for an extra second and makes it degen slower. So in between packs, you just lose all your Rage. But what you can do is you can shout and then pool 10 of that Rage into an Empowered Attack that you use in the next pack. So that's why I have that one. I also have it cooling down a little bit faster with Ingenuity. So Leap Slam, we have it doing the Consecrated Ground. We have it doing a little bit more stun build-up. I have it creating Jagged Ground. This is not something I want to have it stay in there, but I was thinking that I would have to use some kind of Jagged Ground thing to make enemies get aggravated for bleeding. We're not going to use that talent. So what I'll probably just do is just put Momentum back on there, because we're not using that. That's not going to be part of the setup. We'll just chuck Momentum back in there. That way it does a little bit more damage when you land, and it moves a little bit faster. I don't use Leap Slam that much, but when I do, I want it to be something that doesn't take a year and a half to go off. Just makes it feel a lot better. Cuts down that hanging time a little bit. So Hammer of the Gods, this is a very good candidate for my my first Perfect Jeweler's Orb that I add on there. But for now, what we have is Heavy Swing, just more damage. Heft, more max damage. Brutality, more damage. And then Bleed. So we eventually want to have a 100% chance to bleed on Hammer of the Gods, at least. Right? So this is going to give us a big chunk of that, so the rest of it can come from our talents. But, again, my idea is to bleed these bosses with a big hit, and then have a big bleed off of a big hit. Then aggravate that bleed for an even nastier bleed. That's the idea. So the bosses just get shredded. I am doing a video, correct, yep. We are. We got Sunder, doing Upheaval, so it splits into 3. I have it doing less AoE, but it still does plenty of AoE, so it does more damage. Basically, it also consumes Rage to do up to 35% more damage, or just do 35% more damage. Then I also have it doing Fist of War, because I don't really have any other place to put Fist of War, so extra 20% damage, a little bit more AoE is fine. It kind of feels awkward to be shrinking the AoE, but also increasing it, but whatever. A really funny bug, by the way, is that Fist of War, I'm pretty sure, decreases the AoE of Rolling Slam when you socket it in there. Pretty funny. Pretty funny. Alright, now Time of Need, we have this fast forwarding for less skill effect duration. We have it giving me accuracy still, even though I think we have enough accuracy. I just don't have enough spirit to put anything else in there, so there it is. We have Vitality to regen life, and then we also have Cannibalism to give you life recovery on kill. Against bosses, though, we will swap in Herbalism for Cannibalism, so that we can have just better life flask recovery, because we don't need life on kill against one boss. If I could, I'd probably swap out Precision for Spirit, or for that thing, but it's just 5 more Spirit, and I only have 2 left, so it is what it is with this setup. Scavenge plating, I really like scavenge plating for mapping. We're running around the maps with like 85% armor, which is great. Whenever you break armor, which is like all the time, it gives you a stack of armored plating or scavenge plating, which gives you 7% more armor when you quality it up. Another thing about quality is I have most of my things qualityed up. I guess we'll talk about it in a second because Stampede's at the bottom. But anyway, I have most of the things qualityed up, but that is really nice for mapping. Against bosses, though, I will swap out scavenge plating for overwhelming presence, and I will swap Herald of Ash out for Berserk, just to do more damage single target and more stun single target, because both of these are like, they require AoE, right? You kill a mob, it explodes, igniting things next to it. Cool, but not good against the boss. Scavenge plating, you're not really gonna break a boss's armor like ever. Unless you wanted to, but my build doesn't do that right now, so we just stun him more frequently. And that'll work. And then Stampede is what we're doing mostly to charge around. We have it socketed in with Aftershock, which, along with its quality, 30% quality makes it have a 30% chance to Aftershock. Then plus 25 makes it a 55% chance to Aftershock. Then you have 20% from your Ascendancy, plus another 22% from your talents. So Aftershock, or so Stampede has like a 3% chance to not Aftershock with this setup. So pretty much Aftershocks every time, which is awesome. And then because we're playing Crushing Blows, supported skills break armor when inflicting heavy stun. So if I was not playing Crushing Blows, I would probably not use Devastate. I'd probably just use Splinter. But we always want to make it explode armor, which is pretty cool. It's good for clear, and then I have it just doing way more AoE. So you charge around, hit pretty good AoE, and then the Aftershock it's even more AoE. And that's what you're doing for clear. So running around clearing, and then for bossing, just for mapping, you smack them up with Sunder in the beginning. Maybe like hit them with a little debuff ski. Smack them with Sunder until they get stunned. Infernal Cry, Seismic Cry, drop the hammer, and let it rip. Baboosh! And then they'll die, pretty much. Then they'll die. Unless you don't have that good gear, in which case you'll have to repeat that process a couple times. But no big deal. In terms of my gear at the moment, I'll show you what we're rocking with. A lot of this gear has changed, or has not changed very much. But here it is. So on my gear, on my armor, I'm always pretty much looking to get my resists up, then get life, and then armor is kind of the priority. Keep the resists up, get a lot of life, and then get armor. So that's kind of what we're doing here. It also has a little bit of rarity on it, which is fine. That if you don't want rarity, you could look for things like crit. I think helmets can even have melee skills. They can have minion skills. They might be able to have melee skills too. That would be insane if that's a prefix. But anyway, resist, life, armor, juicy. Let's see, the weapon. We can talk about the weapon too, because the weapon is pretty good. I like this percent physical damage, added physical damage. I don't really need the accuracy unless it's like a hybrid accuracy that also gives physical damage, which I don't think this one does. This is just a big accuracy roll. Whatever. Then it also gives attack speed, and then for me, I do like leech, so I had a little bit of leech in the weapon. I think it's probably better to get leech on rings, but then you start to cut into your resistance possibilities, and you're already kind of tight on what you need for suffixes, so you always want like strength and like resists on rings, so it's a little tricky. But you can also get strength and plus skills and like all kinds of crazy stuff on a weapon, so it is what it is. But as long as it has like a percent fizz, flat fizz, and attack speed, I'm pretty happy. And that's what this has. And it's like 800 DPS, so pretty good. Pretty good. Definitely room for upgrade, but pretty good. For rings, again, I'm looking for resists and life and strength. I guess I should mention, always want strength on the gear too. So when I'm talking about my actual armor, I was mentioning resists and life and armor. Also has to have strength. Everything has to have strength on it. This doesn't have strength, but that's okay. My rings and armor and stuff definitely has to have strength. So that's what it's got. It's got life, strength, resists. It's great. They're propping up my chaos resist with these ones. Same thing here. Life, resists, strength, and armor. Could have more armor for sure. Just haven't found a good enough piece yet to prop up the cold and chaos resist, but we'll get there. 181 life's kind of a lot too. Ring, again, it's got life, strength, resist, and then just whatever. Eventually we could get better stuff. Rings could give you, extra damage. It could give you accuracy if you need it. It could give you leech, but again, the resistances are kind of important, and leech is a suffix, so hard to get that. My amulet, we want strength, life, melee skills. The spirit is actually really nice. It's letting me do multiple auras and multiple supports for my auras, which I like. So a little bit of spirit there is cool. I used to have an amulet that had 47 spirit, and it was a little bit more than I needed. I sold that bad boy to a viewer, which is, hopefully he's enjoying that one. But yeah, a little bit of spirit's nice. If I had 40 spirit, I'd be able to rock another aura, or another support for the aura, but we'll deal with that later. For my shield, I want resists, life, armor, but you must have big block chance. And 75 increased block chance, I think, is about as good as it gets. It's about as good as it gets, so that's good. That's important for the block, because anything that scales your block chance is scaling off of the block chance of your actual shield, so you do want that. I decided to go ahead and put max life in it, because I was noticing that like 100 armor doesn't really change my armor at all. So I was like, well, maybe just put life in it. Call it good, right? So this shield's like 544. This shield's 410. It doesn't change my armor like percent at all. So I was like, oh. Maybe let's chuck life in it. Just call it good. Why only plus 15 on the ring? Because that's all I had. That's all I needed. I just needed this ring just needed to be 18% fire resistance instead of 16, so that I could get 120 res to make it 85% max fire. That was a tip from a viewer. They're like, just chuck that on there. I was like, you know what? I will. I did a bunch of breaches. You know what? I will. Good idea. Why not? So thanks. We did do that. So yeah, for a shield, you want block, life, resist, and then armor. Again, I would love to have strength on this, but my resistances are kind of important here, so we don't have strength. I have strength on this one, which lets me equip this shield, or sorry, this 212 strength requirement weapon, but you'll see the resists are not quite right. Oh, by the way, it doesn't have strength on it. Never mind. I use a shield to get enough strength to equip it, to equip the weapon. Because the weapon has enough strength for it to be equipped, but without the weapon being equipped, I don't have enough strength to equip it. It's kind of funny. Don't tell the weapon that. But anyway, that's how that works. It doesn't have life on it though, I don't think. That's why. Yeah, it doesn't have life. Stinky. It has thorns instead of life. The thorns is like hiding at the bottom too, like it's not a prefix. I know you're a prefix, bro. I know you are. That's okay. It'd be cool if I had life. I guess my other weapon, I can show you that one too. This one has fizz damage, percent, flat fizz, increased elemental damage with attacks, which has given me a struggle. It's making me think I should start scaling my damage as fire instead of bleed for the big end game stuff, but we'll see. Has a little bit of crit chance, it has attack speed, it has strength. I bought this thing, I think I rolled the crit and strength on there, but I bought it without it, and then it went okay. It went okay. For my gloves, we have life, chaos resist only, but I think that having chaos resist on your gloves, I think these are really good suffixes. Strength, chaos resist, and attack speed are good, but I do think that they can also roll plus skills on gloves, which is crazy, but anyway, it has life, a resist, strength, attack speed, armor. Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, I'm not sure about perfect strike, but I could. The thing is, I don't know if I want to scale elemental damage without going Avatar of Fire or Avatar of Flame, but we'll see. We'll see. Perfect strike is an option, though. It is. We have here, we have on my belt, we have resists, life, strength. Very cool. Thorns is not what I want. Again, I'd rather just have like armor or something. But it gives me life recovery from my flask, strength, and then 2 resists, which is great. Helping me keep those resists looking juicy. We are like LE weakness capped, meaning that even when my resists are reduced by LE weakness, we are still above the cap for my max resist, which is great. And then boots. Boots have a big room for upgrade, primarily just in the movement speed. Hard to find them though, with as juicy resists as they do strength and life. The mana, again, it doesn't do anything for me, so that would be cool to have like armor there. But yeah, we want like 35% movement speed boots, but this is what we got, and they're pretty okay. With max life and strength and 2 resists, pretty much telling the same story, right? Life, or like resists, life, strength, and then getting armor where you can. It's kind of where I'm at right now. For my life flask, I do like to have the chance to gain a charge when you kill an enemy for mapping, and I do like the little small percent of recovery applied instantly. I think that feels nice. You can get that on the belt too, but I kind of like the armor. 110 armor probably isn't much though, as we saw from the shield, so maybe not a big deal. Against bosses, you probably want to have a flask that gives you a little bit of flask recovery just over the course of time, right? All right, so for my Atlas setup, here's what I'm cooking with right now. I've been using this for pretty much a long time now. I like the chance for these grass biomes to give me more socket currency, meaning like the jeweler's orbs. I found one perfect jeweler's orb ever, and I need more now. But yeah, hoping for the best there. We also just have increased quantity of precursor tablets found, so you have plenty of those things. We have monster packs and just a bunch of chance for the maps to drop higher tier with a little bit of a chance to contain an essence. I've changed this thing up a little bit over here, and I might change it more, but we go into rarity, into quantity of waystones dropped, into more rarity, into rarity like big node. I don't have a lot of rarity on my gear, but I'm trying to like scrape some rarity together. I even have, I guess I should have showed you my charm too. Even my charm is rarity at the moment. Which, if I wasn't going to use the rarity charm, I'd probably use like a freeze charm to get out of freeze. I used a chaos resistance charm for a long time before I capped my chaos res. That's a good idea. But you would have seen that in other build updates. Now we go down here for magic chest, which I don't really like, but I just want to have a quick path down to this. Waystones have a chance to be a higher tier. And then I wouldn't mind going back into these higher tier ones, and then this would be really fun too. This is scary, but it would be fun to make the rares stronger, and the map bosses would get buffed up too. We're not gonna do it right now, we're fighting pinnacle bosses, but that's funny. It also buffs expedition NPCs, because they're technically like unique mobs, they're friendly, but I was watching this Quinn stream, and Gwennon had a mana like suck aura around her, which is pretty funny. I was like, oh my gosh. But anyway, we're doing increased pack size into more rares, and one rare monster is duplicated because the rares are the big loot pinatas. They give you lots of loot along with the bosses, so you want more of those. And I also have just magic pack size, because magic pack size allows me to get down here quickly, and the magic packs are just kind of fun anyway. So that's what I have with this. And then I haven't really spec'd into these too much, but hopefully we'll get some breach stones cleared and we can spec into that a bit. We'll take a look. And we have spec'd into increased rarity of items dropped by bosses. And then we have the waystone chance into, I guess you can't really pick this, but we also have an additional essence. Shrine is kind of cool, but essence I think is good. And then maps are becoming irradiated with bosses, so that's where we're at right now. We've already been yapping for quite a long time, and I have some stuff to do. So that I can do some respecking. So we're not going to show gameplay in this one, but what I have done is just hours and hours of gameplay on stream, and you can find those either on Twitch or even just in the live broadcast tab of the YouTube channel. Just tons of maps blasting to look at gameplay. But yeah, I'd like to get to some gameplay today, but in order to do that, we need to like wrap up the build update and do our respec, which I think is going to take some time. But I'm excited to do the respec. I just wanted to make sure that I gave you guys an update on the build as it was before the grand respecking, because this one served me well. Got us all the way to 95, just hammering maps, and I hope that we can cook up a build that gives me some options for boss killing without completely destroying my ability to map smoothly as well, which I think we can figure out. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. We're gonna go ahead and chuck this up on the YouTubes and immediately start changing everything. So hope you guys enjoyed. And one last thing, I do see a lot of comments for like a written guide on like Mobalytics or Max Roll, and that's the kind of thing that I'd be down to do. It's just that I change things so frequently, I didn't really know if I wanted to like lock in a build on there, and then like people are like, yo, you changed it already, and then or make like 7 different ones. So we'll see. The main thing is I will probably do it eventually. I just want to like stop completely changing everything constantly, but that's part of the fun of this game, is changing everything every day and messing around with different builds. And as what I'm looking to do in the game changes, so must also change the build. So once I stop doing that as much, we'll probably lock it in. But anyway, let's go mess with the build a little bit. That's where we stand for now. Definitely worked out well. Definitely has been a lot of fun, but I'm excited to see what's next, whether we go ignite or bleed. We will see. We will see. Let's get to that now. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the stream.